Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS and in partnership with Vertical Magazine. In this episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast, I sit down with two industry experts who will be presenting at the upcoming Vertical MRO Conference. Chris Matt, with over 36 years of experience at PHI, shares insights in his course on corrosion, highlighting its critical impact on rotorcraft maintenance. Francois Mignon, a veteran in the rotorcraft community since 1981 and currently with Parker Lord, discusses his presentation on the care and inspection of elastomeric components. This conversation highlights the essential role of the Vertical MRO Conference in promoting knowledge exchange among aviation maintenance professionals. It also underscores the critical importance of continuous training, industry recruitment, and strong networking, all of which are vital to ensuring safety, operational excellence, and the ongoing advancement of rotorcraft maintenance. Registration is now open for the upcoming Vertical MRO Conference. Join us from October 7th through 9th at the KF Center for Excellence in Kelowna, British Columbia, and November 10th through 12th at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. Don't miss this opportunity to connect, learn, and expand your industry expertise. For more information about the Vertical MRO Conference, including registration details and the agenda, visit our website at verticalmro.com.
Welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast, brought to you by Vertical HeliCASTS.
All right, everyone, you're ready to contact. You're cleared to the Bravo.
The Vertical MRO Podcast explores the fascinating world of helicopter maintenance, repair, and overhaul with your host, Val Medved.
Now, line altimeter 3029, approved as requested.
The podcast features helicopter technicians, mechanics, engineers, and MRO experts who share invaluable industry insight, knowledge, and stories that will inspire current and aspiring industry maintainers.
Hey, welcome to the Vertical MRO Podcast. I'm today's host, Jon Gray. Excited to have another conversation about the Vertical MRO Conference. If you've heard me speak on this podcast or the Hangers Eat podcast or any other podcast, you know that I love conferences. I think there's so much dynamic information that comes out of conferences. It's a huge part of your career development. It's a huge part of our community. You know, I think by going to these conferences, you really make your citizenship in the community known, and you build the cool community that we've got here. So for today, we've got two folks that are presenting at the conference. We don't want to give away the secrets for the presentations, but I will say the presentations are going to be amazing. Leslie Ferry from Vertical has done an amazing job curating some presentations, part of the education and training that's going to take place at the Vertical MRO conferences. So if you guys can you introduce yourself? And Chris, we'll start with you. Just let us know who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about why you guys are partnering and presenting here at this conference.
Sure thing. Well, first, thanks for having me, John.
Yeah.
Chris Mott. I'm a 36-year employee of PHI as an operation and now as an MRO. You know, when Leslie contacted me about this conference and understanding what it's about and bringing mechanics together is things I've always dreamed of as I've worked at this facility here. Just thinking what's outside in the rest of the world, right? So this is just an opportunity. So looking forward to sharing some of my tribal knowledge with the rest of the technicians out there.
Yeah, the tribal knowledge part of that's huge. With the recruitment issue that we've got on now, we want to take as much knowledge as we can and impart that on community as a whole, because that knowledge that disappears at some point, right? So we want to make sure we retain as much of that as possible. What are you going to be presenting on at the conference?
So I'll be doing two different presentations. One is it's called Corrosion, the Silent Enemy. It's something we've done based on the years of experience we have here working in basically in the Gulf of America over the last, we've been here now operating for 76 years. So we've been fighting this corrosion and just kind of sharing some of what we learned and explaining the importance of finding that corrosion early in its life, I guess you'd say. And the other is just a service life continuation, which is a program we put in place here at PHI to extend the life of our aircraft without them having to come in for major visits in an MRO or a repair station. So all just good stuff based on our history and my experience here for the last 36 years.
Yeah, if there's anybody that knows about corrosion, it's somebody operating where you guys do offshore operations and all the things that you guys are a part of. I don't know, is there any point in the year where your guys' humidity gets below like 50%?
Maybe 3 days during the winter. Yeah, that's about it.
That's interesting. You know, you could be operating anywhere in the world. I think even the driest climates, you've got corrosion issues. So it's a topic that affects everybody. So I'm excited to see you present. And you're presenting at both Kelowna and Irving, correct?
That's correct. I'll be doing 2 in Kelowna and actually 4 in Irving. So really looking forward to it. Just trying to give everybody an opportunity to hear it, and hopefully we can get some conversation around it all and help some people out.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And man, our next guest, you've been in the industry for a long time as well. Could you introduce yourself and let us know where you're coming from and a little bit about what you're presenting?
Yeah, hi guys. My name's François Magnan. I've been at Lord now for going on 11 years as a customer manager. So I work with customers that come to us for repair on helicopter components. Prior to that, I spent 27 years at Bell. I was in charge of PSC and TechBub, so worked with commercial customers all over the world. Got to visit them in 45 different countries over the years. Did spend quite a bit of time in the Gulf there at PHI and with the other folks. And prior to my time at Bell, I also worked with commercial operators in the Canadian, Eastern Canada and in the Arctic. Yeah, at Parker Lord, our main goal is to inform our customers to make sure that they're making the proper decision when it comes to maintenance. So, my presentation is not a marketing pitch. It's really IE renewal type material. Just to give you an example, I did it 25 times last year. I did all the DND bases with the Griffin folks with Bell, doing what they call the road show. So that was really exciting, doing it from Goose Bay to Cold Lake to all the other squadrons in between, and spending time with old colleagues from Bell. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to be part of the MRO conferences. I used to work with Leslie back at Bell for quite a few years, did a number of conferences with her back then. So it would be nice working with her and with the Vertical team again.
Yeah, you bring up working with old colleagues. It's a small community that we're a part of, but it's really cool. And these kind of conferences, it kind of highlight how, we're a big industry, but really small, because you go there and you see folks from all over the world, but they're all your friends,
Exactly.
That's what I love about the conferences. And what's unique about this one is, you think about Verticon, and I go to AppsCon quite a bit, and Echo and these other conferences that exist that are all great, but they're not focused on AMEs or AMPs, on the engineers that are making everything happen. Whereas our goal with this conference is to really facilitate this and focus this on maintainers. The training that's taking place, all the networking, all the things that we're doing are for the maintainers. And that's just not something you see at most conferences. Chris, any thoughts on that by itself?
Oh, definitely. So I've had the opportunity to present a few different presentations through VAI with AppsCon and that group, but it's normally it's the afterthought, right? The maintenance side is the afterthought. The main focus there for AppsCon is usually your captains and then your flight crews. So this is something huge for us, where the primary focus is the maintainer. It's something you don't see often at this scale.
Yeah.
And growing up through it, I've always hoped to see something like this happen. So I'm just super excited to be a part of it, and just realizing that, Francois, we've worked together before. I've sat through your conferences now that I've So like, you're right. It's a small world, but I learned how to inspect our rubbers and our components by going through this, his class here. So this is huge. I mean, it really is, and it's going to give people the opportunity that don't normally have that reach out, to connect with people and get a source where somebody may have an issue with a bearing or something, and they'll now have somebody to call, or corrosion issue, and they have somebody to talk to about it, where before they didn't. I mean, that's what it's about. It's networking to that point, not always to sell a service, but to help the next guy.
Yeah, Francois, on that side, on the conference side, focusing on the AMEs and AMPs. Can you talk about the importance of that and why this conference is so important?
Yeah, well, like I said, the way we approach these training sessions is to make sure both, and I know we're not pushing on pilots here, but, for me, both pilots and technicians can get a lot from these presentations. And the last thing we want is, for anybody to get hurt. So, that's number one priority. Number one priority is safety. But also the economics are, more and more important. And where I'm going with that is that when we started doing these conferences about 15 or 20 years ago, the main purpose was to inform customers as to what was a good part versus what was a bad part. And, maintainers being cautious by nature, our biggest problem was having good parts being returned because people didn't have a good understanding of what they were seeing. So with the way we approach these presentations, as we talk about the basic engineering that goes into designing these parts and how these parts are made so that, when you're looking at the part, you're referring to the OEM manuals for guidance, you get that extra layer of confidence to make the right call and hopefully not pull a good part off the aircraft.
Yeah, that training is huge, and that the fact that it's catered specifically to maintainers for the understanding and betterment of our community. You talk about the recruitment issue that we face. A lot of what that's requiring is that we become more efficient in the things that we do and effective in our operations. Exactly. And I think that the training that we're going to present here will make folks more efficient, more effective in the things they're doing. So looking forward to that. Can you kind of give us a preview, Francois, of what your course is going to cover? We've talked about the elastomerics a little bit, but maybe just a point or two on what you're going to touch on.
Yeah, well, like I said, I start off by talking about the basic design of the part, how these parts are made. Knowing how the part is made helps you understand what to look for. And I even have, samples that I bring during the conferences to show people, cutaways of the different parts. That's always good to help explain, the basic materials. So we look at how things are built. We look at what to look for. And I also squeeze in more and more slides about human factors, beyond just the elastomeric components, stuff like, proper documentation with parts and, just common mistakes that can be made, when you're working long hours, you're trying to do your best, but just the dirty dozen type approach there that the FAA and Transport Canada talks a lot about.
Yeah, that part of it's huge. The environmental factors that surround working in extreme weather conditions like what you experience in the Arctic. And I'm sure like you experience in the Gulf, right? Hot and humid, or dry and cold. That takes a toll and it has an impact on your ability to perform your job to the best of your ability. So I think those factors are important to consider. I think a lot of people, they kind of just take a lot of that for granted, right? So I think it's great that you're covering that. I always think it's interesting to consider what those components do in the extremes. And the cold is the one extreme that I'm really interested in. What's the most surprising thing you've seen as far as these components go with cold environments?
To be honest, the cold doesn't affect them that much. We designed the parts to be able to be serviceable throughout the old approval envelope of the aircraft, The point I usually bring up is that, you can't just take an aircraft out of the hangar at 15 degrees C and push it outside at minus 30 and go flying right away. Per the flight manual, your oil temperatures have to be in the green before you go flying. So, by the time you turn on the ground, you ground run long enough for those temperatures to go up, all the rubber on the head, is going to be, doing just fine. So it's not like I said, going from minus 30 or minus 40 to, the flight regime within a few seconds. So again, because of the design of these parts, there is typically no issue with the cold weather. It's more the people working on the aircraft that have issues with it.
Exactly.
My personal record is doing RPM adjustments on an A-Star at minus 52 degrees.
Ooh. You can have that one, buddy. I'll take my 110 and 90% humidity,
Yeah, minus 52 Celsius up north. Yeah,
That's
that was a
crazy.
cold day.
No doubt that's a cold day, for sure.
Well, and Chris, as you brought up, you're kind of on the opposite ends of the spectrum. What have you seen? And corrosion's a big part of that. What have you seen that's been surprising as far as the components go and in the environment that you operate in?
So in our environment, and it all goes back to how they stand up in the moisture, right? And it's so wet. So some of the things we've noticed over time is magnesium. Everything you're dealing with as far as what an aircraft's built from, less the titanium and stainless steel will be affected by corrosion. And the stainless steel and the titanium, although they don't corrode, they will force corrosion onto the aluminum and other things that they're attached to. So some of the things we see in the environment we work in, and not just here in the Gulf, but in other areas of the country as well, and Canada as well. When you're on the coast, or actually within 50 to 60 nautical miles of the coast, you're in a salt-laden atmosphere. So you're gonna see that buildup of salt. So you'll see it on an aircraft in our operation when they land. At the end of the day, there's salt deposits on the main rotor blades. So that's extreme. So that means we have a serious issue with corrosion, but then it balls back to that guy that may be a little further inland, but he also has issues, right? So he may have issues if he's an air medical aircraft just because of what they clean in the body fluids with, or the body fluids themselves, So you see it in all areas.
Yeah, I remember being in Egypt a few years ago with the PAS, Petroleum Air Services, and I was at one of the bases there, which is right on the Red Sea, and the guys from the Gulf of Mexico, because Airlog was involved with that operation back then. Right. They said, in the Gulf of Mexico, aircraft corrode. In Egypt, aircraft rust.
Exactly.
And I remember being on the ramp there next to 412 and just standing there for about maybe half an hour. After half an hour, my sunglasses were coated with salt.
Yeah.
Just from the salt spray blowing from the sea there. So.
Oh yeah, it's harsh, and some people don't understand. And it's engines as well, right? So that turbine engine sitting there sucking in like a big vacuum cleaner. So all that salt air is rolling right through it as well. So we talk a little bit about that as well as the impact it'll have on your engine and other components, your steel components as well, and structures of the airframe that could fail because of it. So.
We had an interesting conversation with the Bell folks on the Bell Tech Talk, one of our episodes on washing aircraft. I think the understanding in our conversation was it's kind of your standard environment, not the environment you're talking about. For the environment you're operating in, is it required after every flight to go through like a bird bath type washing, or what is it? What do you guys do to?
Yeah, so we do. We actually do a hand wash.
Okay.
So we got crews that go out with water buckets and a mild soap, and they'll wash the aircraft every night. And when we were flying aluminum bladed aircraft, the 206 series and things, it was with WD-40 the blades every 5 to 7 days. You want to coat the leading edges and things. So we had processes in place. Engine rinses every day. When you land, the engine's rinsed with water. You're going to pull the salt out of it. And in turn, you have side effect of that is the aircraft staying wet, right? So you're getting rid of the salt water, but you still have moisture. So you still have some of it. So it's a reduction in corrosion, but it's not corrosion proof by no means.
Yeah. It's super interesting to me. Something else I want to talk about is the young side of our community. Going back to the recruitment issue that we find ourselves in today. A lot of what we're hoping to do at the conference is to attract new folks. Just had a conversation yesterday, as a matter of fact, on the podcast with some folks from the Thrust Institute of Maintenance. They've got a really cool relationship with a local STEM high school that's attracting AMPs and AMEs or prospective AMEs into their program. So, I think it's important that we consider, how do we address the recruitment issue that we're facing today? So for you guys, any thoughts or an insight as to how we kind of tackle that situation we find ourselves in?
Yeah, maybe if I can go first, Chris.
Sure.
Lord, now being part of Parker, we're a corporation and we want to grow our business and we want to sell more parts and, we want to be, more and more in the market. But the problem that we face is that a lot of operators right now are parking aircraft, not because they don't have work, because they don't have maintainers to take care of them. That's an actual fact. It's not something I'm making up. So where that takes us is that, we've got to take better care. First of all, we got to attract more folks into our business. And also, once they step in the door, we got to take better care of them. I remember when I started many years ago, when you started off with a helicopter company, you were washing floors and, if you were lucky, you were washing aircraft, but, you're doing the errands with the pickup trucks and stuff like that. So not the most interesting or glamorous work, and maybe not what I really wanted to do back then, but that was the way it was. And I think we have to make a little bit more of an effort as far as, first of all, attracting people, and then once they make it through the door, mentoring them to make sure we take good care of them, so that the interest they had when they came in just keeps on growing. Because, depending on the type of work you're going to be doing with helicopters, it's not always going to be very easy work. So there has to be a lot of passion involved to keep going in this business.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Chris, any follow up on that?
Yeah, sure. So, Francois, you hit the nail on the head there. It's not always a glamorous job, right? It's something you have to enjoy doing. But it's to get the guys to get an interest up front. Apprenticeship programs are huge. I had the benefit of doing that. So I worked as an apprentice actually while I was still in high school, and I was able to get signed off to get my A&P license at 19 years old. And an opportunity is there for any individual that has the interest. At PHI, we do apprenticeship programs. We'll bring guys in right out of high school, and we'll start training them up. And it works both ways. It gives us an opportunity to see the individual. It gives the individual an opportunity to see what we do and draw in that interest. And with any luck, he enjoys what he does and he catches on to it. And kind of like John, I had a little chat earlier today, and we talked about guys off the farm. If you can find a guy raised on a farm, you kind of know already he has that ability to fix broken things. Because that's how farm guys live. And it's to go out and find those guys. But to Francois's word of parking aircraft, I get the opportunity to visit quite a few law enforcement agencies. And I visited a few last week, and one of them their mechanic retired. They can't find a replacement. So that's what's happening. The old guys are gone, and there's nobody to replace them. And if a company waits to the point when their individual is gone before they lose them, right? So everything that guy's learned over the years and done, he has nobody to pass it on to. And that's the gap that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Is that, like I said, that tribal knowledge we briefly spoke of earlier, it's important. And these conferences are going to get people used to it. My goal is, like I said, to get a kid to see a helicopter fly over and point at it and say, "Hey, I want to be a mechanic one day. I want to work on that helicopter."
Yeah.
Then we're getting somewheres, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a passion.
Some great points. The recruitment issue isn't just on the front side. Like Francois brought up, it's a retention issue as well.
Yes.
More employees than not are willing to go somewhere else given the right circumstances. So I think it's incumbent upon us to create a culture where the folks that work with us don't want to go somewhere else.
Agreed.
We had a really interesting conversation with Clint Pulver. He's going to be at the conference as well. And he talks about that in his book titled, I Love It Here. He's a retention expert and talks about creating a culture and an environment that your employees don't want to leave. And I think that's really important to consider. It's much harder to bring someone in the front door than it is to retain the folks that are already here. And it costs a lot more too. So interested to hear his presentation. That's a must attend. He's an amazing person. That book is fabulous. But I do think that you guys brought those points up, which are huge. And the passion side of it, Chris, that you brought up, I think is important to touch on too. Everybody in our industry, well, I shouldn't say everybody, most everybody in our industry is here because they love it. There's a true passion for the community that we're a part of. And I think you'll see that at this conference. So to that, the last question I'll pose to you guys is, everyone's got a busy schedule. Most shops are struggling to keep folks there working on the machines to keep them flying. How would you encourage folks that may be a little bit reluctant because of their schedule or whatever the reason is to attend this conference to show up?
Oh, wow. I'll start with that one. Francois, you had the last one. I'll let you go off of me. But I think I think if you really look into what this conference is about, and understand that there are the benefits of it. And my hope is that, because I was one of them at one time, but a few of the younger guys on these hangar floors can get out and come to these shows, and that's the goal, and that's where the passion has grown. That's where they understand the industry outside of just the place they work. So guys shouldn't be afraid of, hey, my guy's going to go out there and he's going to get recruited by another company or something. Let's go out there and have a conversation. Let them sit in on a few of these forums and things and see how tight knit this. We've had that opportunity. Us three on this, sitting here in this podcast, we've done it. I just had that opportunity 3 years ago. I'm, in 36 years in the business, and only 3 years ago I was able to get out and start going to conferences because of the job I took. But that's unfair to those guys, on the lower end of the, who are out on the hangar floor. Some of these lead technicians and even some of you new guys that are just coming on as apprentice. This is an opportunity, So that's where I am. I hope the companies out there can see that benefit. And bring some guys on,
The networking part of that is huge. How many problems are solved over a napkin and a beer?
Oh, for sure.
And the networking part of these conferences, and we've all got issues that we're facing trying to come up with solutions, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and that's what I love about these conferences is you run across people who are or have dealt with the same problems that you have, and it's a short conversation or it's an exchange of phone numbers, and down the road, it pays dividends. So for the folks that are early in your career, those networking things will pay dividends the rest of your career. Knowing who to call when something goes wrong is crucial.
Right.
So don't wait until the moment you're like, oh, who do I call? You want to find yourself in a position where something happens and you've got a Rolodex of folks to call. And I realize now that I said Rolodex, there's a whole
you're aging yourself. It used to cost you $0.25 to make that call. Now you just pick up your cell phone, right? I mean, it still costs you, but in the end, and I tell that to guys all the time, to customers as well as just individuals in the industry. A phone call to me is free. Can I answer every question you have? No, but if I can forward you on to somebody that can, we all win, and that's what it's about. That's what
absolutely. It's about. Francois, any insight there?
The one thing you got to remember is that these events are actual recurrent training. So Transport Canada has got an informal requirement for recurrent training, which is managed by individual AMOs, aircraft maintenance organizations, whereas the FAA, I think they're a little bit more formal with the IA renewal requirements. But these are actual recurrent training sessions, and I'm sure Leslie will be policing this so that it's not a marketing pitch. And there are some hard requirements. When you're applying for an SAA or Transport Canada approval, you have to demonstrate that the material you'll be presenting is value-added technical material, not just trying to sell your latest gadget or something like that. And I'm sure Leslie will be policing that very much to make sure that when people sign up, they do deliver the expected quality of presentation that meets those requirements.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Like you had brought up, Francois, earlier, Leslie has a lot of experience with the Bell M&O side of this. So she's not new to what we're doing here. We're just expanding this to our community as a whole, which is really cool. For folks that are looking for more information, you can go to verticalmro.com. The registration is currently open for Kelowna, and if it's not open now, it will be shortly for Irving. So encourage you to go to the website, register, and look for more information there. Francois, I don't think we touched on it, but you are presenting at both Kelowna and Irving, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys there, seeing you in person, and seeing this thing take flight. As it were. It's gonna be phenomenal. This is an event that is for anybody in the MRO industry, and I think one of you brought it up. It's not even a bad place for a pilot to go.
Exactly.
I think about how much I learned looking over our maintainers' shoulders after a flight, and I wish I had spent more time early on doing stuff like this. When it comes to emergency procedures and understanding the systems that are involved in an emergency, Yeah, and I think there's no replacement for the education you get.
Yeah,
out of
because,
something like that.
the material I'm presenting is, like I said earlier on, even though we're not targeting these conferences for pilots, the material I do is very much applicable to pilots also, because the pilot's looking at his aircraft every day, doing his DI. And I remember doing this presentation a couple of years back at the Canyon, and I had a small group. I had 6 people, 3 pilots and 3 maintainers. And I can tell you the pilots asked more questions and were more engaged than the maintainers were. And I thought that was pretty special. Another portion of our industry that can gain a lot from these presentations is even like the support staff, like the procurement folks.
Oh yeah.
I did the presentation in Arizona a couple of years ago, and after I did it, some of the shipping guys came to see me and they said, "Hey, we really got a lot out of your presentation. There's a lot of stuff that we're doing that's going to be affected by what you told us today." So yeah, it's way more than just maintainers.
Excellent point. The procurement folks, talk about unsung heroes.
Oh yeah,
those are the
for
ones
sure.
that often are not even thought of. So I love that you brought that up. Again, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Any last thoughts or closing comments before we head out?
I mean, I'd just like to echo what's been said here. It's an event that shouldn't be passed up. If you like helicopters, if you think you like helicopters, if you're a mechanic working on automobiles and think you one day want to work on helicopters, it's the place to go.
Yeah.
You'll understand it. You'll see what the industry's all about. And then for those guys out on the floor that are just looking for a little help, we'll be there to do that. I mean, don't miss it.
Absolutely. Francois?
Yeah, and I always look forward to these conferences because I always learn so much from the people that are there. And like I like to say sometimes, the less you know, the more you think you know, and the more you know, the less you think you know. So that's pretty well describes the audience. Sometimes, you've got some folks that figure they know it all and they're not paying attention. And then the people with a ton of experience, they're hanging on to every word you're saying. So that's always fun.
Yeah, that thirst for knowledge is so important in this industry. We talk about safety and that's the backbone of it, is that thirst for knowledge and always wanting to improve. I think that's one of the reasons I love aviation so much, is because there's no way you could ever master everything that there is to master in aviation. There's always something new, always something more to learn.
Yes.
So this is really exciting. Again, for registration, go to verticalmro.com. We've tried to make this as affordable as possible. I think for regular folks, $299 a person. If you're sending more than 10 people from a company, it's reduced to $199. And for AME's students, we're looking at free entry, which is, we're trying to make this,
that's great,
accessible for the students more than anything. So look forward to seeing y'all there. Thank you guys for your insight, for joining us, and thank you for presenting. Your guys' topics are outstanding.
Thank you for the invite. Looking forward to meeting you as well and participating in the conference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See you in Kelowna.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Have a good afternoon and cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Vertical MRO Podcast. We hope you found today's insights from Chris Matt and Francois Mignon valuable and inspiring. The Vertical MRO Conference is a fantastic opportunity to deepen your industry knowledge, connect with fellow professionals, and stay at the forefront of rotorcraft maintenance innovation. Registration is now open. Join us in Kelowna from October 7th through 9th and Irving, Texas from November 10th through 12th. Be sure to visit vertical.mro for more details, including registration information and the full agenda. Until next time, stay safe, stay connected, and keep pushing the boundaries of excellence in rotorcraft maintenance.